Good morning, Chidi. How are you?
Well, good morning, Mayor. How are you
Morning.
both today?
Baruch Hashem.
Okay. Good to see you. Okay, good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshiva Samanach, here in Yerushalayim Care Zoom. This is Erev Shabbos Parsha Noach, Shana Tovshin Pei Beis. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Because I can't see me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a problem.
Oh, I can see me now, I think.
Oh, good.
I'm not too
Excellent. Mitsuyan.
you.
Okay.
Oh,
Now
all right, there I am.
you found yourself.
Yeah, yes. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Rabbi Furst. I'm sorry.
No, we're just getting started now. It's quite right on time. Right on time.
Long
Okay. Let's see.
Right back.
We'll begin in the Parsha. If you want to direct your attention to Perek Zion Pasuk Beis.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, Zion Pasuk Beit.
Okay, very good. Roy or Mary would like to read the Pasuk?
Yeah, yeah.
Chapter Zion, chapter 7, the second Pasuk Beis.
Okay, I guess I'll read it. Mikol habehema hatahora tikach lecha shiva. Oh, shiva ish ve'ishto. Umin habehema asher lo tahora hi shnayim ish ve'ishto. That's interesting.
So what strike you as being interesting about this
Well,
Pasuk?
with the holy, I shouldn't say holy, the pure animals, the Torah animals, it lists Shiva, but with the lo tahor animals, it just says Shnayim, Ish v'ishto.
So and Rashi dwells on that point for you. Rashi, if you look at the Rashi, it says Shiva, right?
Okay, let me. Okay, Shiva, Kidei sheyakriv mehem karban. Oh, B'tzeito. Oh, okay. So in order to bring a korban after they leave the ark.
Right. So therefore those behemoths which were tahor, so those are which are brought upon them as Mizbeach. So Noah was told by Kadosh Baruch Hu to bring extra of those animals that he could be offering them on the Mizbeach after he would come out of the table.
Wow.
So the point I'm going to dwell on now also, it says here in this pasuk that it's the ish v'ishtoi, right? I want to contrast that with another pasuk. There's another pasuk that it says here. Further down in the Parsha, Pasuk Tes Vav and Tes Zion.
Het Vav,
Sorry, what's test for?
Yes, that'll be number 15 and 16. Psukim 15 and 16.
16. We've got 15. And
Het Vav and Tet Zion. Okay.
that's in Lech Lecha. Is that right?
No.
No,
right here.
Noach.
Oh,
Chapter 8, Roy.
right.
Right here in 7, in chapter 7, right where we
Oh,
were.
7?
What's that?
7,
Chapter
15 and 16.
Why am I in 8? Huh.
15 and 6. Ah, 15.
7, 15, and 16. Oh.
Oh, 7. Oh, right. I've gone too far.
Oh, yeah, Perek Zion. That's right. Okay. Sorry.
15 is test for and
Yes.
and
And Tet
test Zion.
Zion, the next
Oh,
one. Yeah.
Okay, I think I've gone. I don't know why I went somewhere else.
Actually, it could be maybe better. Maybe better. Let's, you know what? Before we go to that, take a look at the very last pasuk in Parshas Bereshis. Okay, take a look at the very last pasuk in Parshas Bereshis.
Okay. It says, do you have it, Roy?
Yeah, I think voracious. No, not yet. Not the last. Oh, that's Noah. Yeah, yes, I've got it. That's the one with the Noah.
Yep.
Right, yeah, I got that.
So let's see. V'Noach matzah chen b'nei Hashem. So Noach found grace in the eyes of Hashem.
Very good. Now, if you notice, there's a targum. I'm not sure if you have a targum in your chumash that you're dealing with there. Says, "V'noach ashkach rachmin kadam Hashem." Noach found rachmim, mercy, compassion before Hashem. So Kadosh Baruch Hu dealt compassionately with Noah, right?
Wow. Yeah.
There's probably no other human being that received more compassion from a Kadosh Baruch Hu than Noah did. I mean, maybe you'll argue. I don't want to get into a fist fight, but maybe you argue and say maybe Moshe Rabbeinu had more rachamim than Noah. Maybe Avram Avinu, maybe Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. He was there in the cave, right? And Hashem took care of him in the cave, right? Maybe Eli Navi, he was fed food from when he was running away from Achav in the Midbar. There, he was fed food. Maybe you'd suggest to me maybe that the Klal Yisrael in the Midbar, we had 40 years of the Anani covered, and we had the Bir Miriam, and we had the Man, right? So maybe you'd suggest that they had more, they received more rachamim from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So okay, I'm not maybe yes, maybe no, but definitely it was one of the top 5 or 10 people in the world that received the most rachamim from a Kadosh Baruch Hu that ever occurred, right? Being saved from the Mabul for the whole year's time in the Teva, and being allowed to build the Teva. So Noach was the recipient of great mercy by Kadosh Baruch Hu. So you see that the word chen, the Targum translates the word chen as rachamim. Rachamim. Now we've discussed this before, but I want to reinforce it, right? When we take a look, we'll jump around a little bit now, as we've done before. We'll reinforce everything here. If you want to jump to Parshas, let's see, Parshas. Parshas, toward the end of Parshas Chai Sarah. Yeah, toward the end of Parshas Chai Sarah.
Sarah.
Tell you where that'll be. Yeah, that's in Perek. That's in the 24th chapter. Chapter 24 of Dalid. And Pasuk Samek Zayin, 67, the 67th verse.
Okay, okay. So let's see, that's 2467. And it says, Vayivieha Yitzchak ha'ohela Sarah imo, Vayikach et Rivka, Vatehi lo Lisha, Vayehaveha Vayinachem Yitzchak acharei imo. Okay, so Yitzchak brought Sarah.
Well, he brought her and Rivka
He
into
brought her, right,
He brought
to the
into-
tent of Sarah, his mother.
Mother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then he married Rivka, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And thus, Yitzchak consoled after his mother.
Oh, right. So, so you see this expression that he loved her, right? He loved her.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if you have a Targum there. If you have a Targum, it's worthwhile. See, we're going to spend a lot of time on the Targum, but the Targum throughout Chumash, every time this expression of love is mentioned, he always uses the
Oh, yes.
expression of Rachamim.
Yeah,
Right.
Rachama, it says.
Rachama, right? Rachama. So he had Rachama, he had compassion, mercy on her, right? I mean, that's the way you're supposed to love somebody. What does love mean? Love doesn't mean we'll leave alone what Hollywood and the all the romantic novels make you believe what Rachamim is all about, what real love is all about. But that's not what we're talking about. That's not what the Torah is talking about. So when the Torah is talking about it, it's talking about doing something, meaning you have rachamim on somebody, you have mercy upon somebody. And we see from Noach that he had chen, the fact that Noach had chen, which was the same targum, chen was also rachamim, mercy, compassion. So Hashem had compassion on Noach. And that's the way that a person is supposed to behave towards a person he loves, right? So we can see throughout, we're going to see other examples of the Targum. In all these cases, that's what the Torah is intending when it's explaining and describing that people had love for one another, or they were supposed to have a mitzvah of love towards one another. If you want to take a look here in Parshas Toldos, we've done this several times already, but it's worth reinforcing every time because we're used to that standard Western world view, and we have to try and get it out of our minds and our hearts the way that the world thinks about things. So if you take a look in Parshas Toldos, the pasuk, let's see, here it is. Let's see. Let's see here. Yeah, in Perek Chav Hey, the 25th Perek of Bereshis, you have the pasuk Chav Ches, 25, 28, chapter 25,
Yes.
Pasuk 28. Go ahead, Mir.
Says Vayehav Yitzchak et Esav ki Sayid b'piv Rivka ohevet et Yaakov. Okay, so Yitzchak loved Esav because Tziyad's a hunter. He was a
Right.
hunter. Okay. In his mouth, I guess. Okay, so he brought him meat. Rivka ohevet et Yaakov, but Rivka loved Yaakov.
Now, if you notice, before we get to the Targum, but it's straight understanding of the pasuk is when it comes to the love that Yitzchak had for Esav. We'll probably discuss this more as we get closer to the Parsha, that Hashavua, a couple of weeks, Mirz Hashem, that the Torah is what we call being totally depending the love of Yitzchak for Esav on a dover, right? It's avatoli b'dover. It's something, the pasuk is describing Yitzchak's love for Esav because of a something, because he was side b'piv. Whereas the love that Rivka had for Yaakov was not totally b'dover, right? That's an important distinction that you should make between the type of love that Yitzchak had for Esav and the type of love that Rivka had for Yaakov. And as the Mishnah Abu says, Kol Ava Shetoli B'Davar, Batal Adavar, Batal Ava. Any love that is dependent on something, if the thing disappears, the love disappears, right?
Right.
So here the Torah is going out of its way to describe the type of love that Yitzchak had for Esav as a love which is Tali B'Davar. Oh, okay, now let's take a look at the Targum on that pasuk.
Let's see, 28 Kaf Chet. Okay, so it says, Urechem Yitzchak Yat Esav Ari Mitzede Chava Achil Rivka Rechemat Yaakov. So it's still the same root, Rachem.
Right, the exact same root, right? That the Yitzchak had compassion, had mercy on Esav, and Rivka had compassion on Yaakov, right? Compassion, and that's what love is supposed to be. We had the first pasuk that there was love of Yitzchak to Rivka, which was a relationship between a man and a wife, is based on compassion, mercy between the two of them. And now you have the love between parents and children, which is also based upon the behavior of rachamim, mercy, of the parent to the child. It should be noted, maybe we'll just take a moment and mention that when it comes to a child, right? When it comes to a child's supposed to have covet for his parents and yira for his parents. He's supposed to respect and honor his parents, but it doesn't say he has to love. There's no commandment that the child has to love his parents. That's just worth noting. But the Torah doesn't command that a child have to love his parents, and neither does it command a parent to love his child. Right? There's no commandment that a parent love his child.
We don't take that for granted as a natural association.
That's the point. I think the point is the Torah doesn't have to command something which is going to be natural. The the Sefer Chavos HaLevavos explains that the Kadosh Baruch Hu gives a newborn child a special chen. Actually, I think he uses, if I'm not mistaken, he uses that expression chen, which is the same expression as we saw by Noah of chen, that Nimsa Noah chen, that Hashem had found chen in Noah. And there's the Targum was also there, Rachamim had mercy, compassion. Hashem had compassion on Noah. So the Chavos HaLevavos explains that parents, through the mercy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by giving the child, the newborn child, the child is given a special chen to the parents, that they have a special affinity, that they can act mercifully with the child when he's born and throughout his, most probably I would say even throughout his whole life. That why do parents always think this is the most beautiful baby in the world, right? There are hundreds of babies born every day. And this is the most beautiful. Every parent in the world in general thinks that this is the most beautiful baby in the world. How can it be? How can it be?
It's true.
And they're correct as well.
And they're correct, right? So how can they all be correct? How can they all be correct? That's the point. Hashem puts in the hearts of the parents a special merciful feeling towards their own child, right? Their own child, that they can take care of the child, because the child needs a lot of extra care and love and compassion and mercy, especially in the early years when he's not able to fend for himself, can't do anything for himself when he's first born. Of all creatures in the world, I think, I'm not sure, I think, I saw this, Rav Miller, I think, explained all the creatures in the world, human beings are the most helpless of all creatures in the world, right?
Yeah,
And there's no creature that's so helpless at birth as a human being.
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, there's a pasuk. It says, "Ashur ben yomo is nikra shor," meaning as soon as an animal is born, it's called what it is. Right? It's not. You might call it a calf, and then it comes a slow, it becomes an ox. Maybe it's a pony, and then it becomes a horse. But in general, most animals have the ability to fend for themselves more or less pretty much early on in their early development. Birds, I guess they have to stay in the nest a little while, but nothing like a human being that's completely, absolutely helpless, right? The human being is completely, absolutely helpless without the benefit of its parental mercy. The child wouldn't be able to survive more than a day, maybe even less, if it wasn't for the mercies of his parents upon him. So there are a lot of reasons why that should be, but and HaKadosh Baruch Hu therefore has to instill in the parents a special mercifulness, compassion towards the child, because the child is not exactly except for the fact that he's the most beautiful child in the world, he doesn't think he gets pretty messy sometimes. As beautiful and as cute as he may be, right? He gets pretty messy. And so the Kadosh Baruch Hu, knowing this, gives the parents an extra special dose of compassion towards their own child. And so that's another example where we see that love is understood to be a behavior of rachamim. Now this example is a little bit more difficult. It's also there in Parshas Toldos, but we've explained it before. We can explain it a little bit more difficult explanation, but it just goes to show how far this concept of love is rooted completely, absolutely in the concept and the behavior of compassion and mercy. And let's see where it is in Parsha. It's also in Parshas Toldos. And yes, it's in Perek Chaf Zayin, Perek 26, 27, Perek 27, right? Pasuk Dalet. Take a look at that pasuk there.
So let's see. So it says, let's see, Dalet. Oh, the Aseli matamim, ka'asher ahavti v'havi'a li v'ochela ba'avor tivarechecha nafshi b'terem amut. So then he says, make for me delicacies that when I love, he says, such as I love, and bring it to me, and I will eat, so that my soul may bless you before I die. And that's interesting.
Oh. Right, so if you want to take a look at the Targum there, take a look at the Targum of that pasuk.
Okay, that's Daled. Let's see. Daled. Okay, it says, the evade li tavshilin kema direchemit. The el li the echul the deal di tivar rechnach nafshi ad la imut. Again, rachemit, same root. Yeah.
Right, same root, you have the same word ava, and you have the same root in the Targum of Rashi.
Mhm.
So here, it's a little bit more difficult to explain how Rachamim fits in with this, because what's the pasuk describing? It's describing Yitzchak's desire that Esav should get him the meat that he's fond of, right? That he loves, which, look, in general, this is a difficult pasuk to understand. How we understand that Yitzchak is on the highest madrega. You know, he went to Yekadis Yitzchak, the highest madrega of self-sacrifice, right? To give himself up at the Yekada, at the desire of his father to slaughter himself, at the desire of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his father. And you see that Yitzchak is involved with loving meat. I mean, you know, he's into the pastrami sandwiches. So, and how do we understand that it's supposed to be a form of ava in terms of rachamim? Where's rachamim involved here, right? So this explanation takes a little bit of a more detailed, in-depth understanding, but the basic understanding that I have to explain this is that Yitzchak, as we said, was on a very high madrega, with Tzidkus. And in the Mesilas Yesharim, he explains there that when a tzaddik, when a Talmid Chacham eats, it's like a korban being offered on the Mizbeach, just like the meat, various sacrifices were offered on the altar, on the Mizbeach, right, and were consumed and brought a certain. We see that from this week's Parsha also, that Noach offered the korbanos, and there was a reich nichayak. There was literally a time and a place and a favorable disposition that this created on behalf of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So likewise, when a Talmid Chacham, when a tzaddik is eating, right, the food that he's eating is not simply a act of consuming food. It's an act of offering a sacrifice on a altar, on a mizbeach. And likewise, Yitzchak, what was the compassion, meaning in specifically meat? Why specifically meat did he have a special love for meat? Because the Sfarim explained that many times people, because of their various sins and rectifications that have to take place because of the sins, have to be brought into this world again as Gilgulim, and primarily they're brought back in the form of Gilgulim of animals, right? form of animals. And when the tzaddik is going to be eating and consuming the meat from the animal, that is a rectification of what needs to be fixed up from what was previously done wrong, and the poor person was brought back into this world. So just a way of a form of explaining this, that Yitzchak had a special ava, special compassion toward the meat, because he's eating the meat in a way that the meat would be allowed to have its tikkun, its proper rectification based on what was required of coming back into this world. So without going into too much more detail on that, there's a way of explaining how ava, in terms of Yitzchak's desire for these meats, was a form of love, which was a form of compassion, because otherwise you're a little bit left in the dark about how can a person eating meat be considered to be something compassionate. But from this point of view, I think you can get a pretty clear idea of what Yitzchak was trying to accomplish and why he had a special affinity, a special mercy to give to the meat, because that was a special rectification taking place there. Okay. Yeah, if you want to take a look at that pasuk by Noah, go back to Parshas Noah, and we'll see what it says by the Mizbeach that Noah killed. We already saw right in the Rashi previously that there were 7 animals from those which were tahor, 7 animals which were tahor, that they were taken out from the destruction that took place at the time of the Mabil, and especially 7, because Noah would offer them as korbanos on the Mizbeach. So, and that brought forth a very special relationship that was now forged between the Kadosh Baruch Hu and mankind. Let's see where that is again. Should be in Parsha Ches, if I'm not mistaken. Parsha Ches in Teva. Yes. Take a look. I guess let's start from Pasuk Yud Ches. Ches, Yud Ches, the 8th chapter, right? The 8th chapter and the 18th. We'll start with the 18th.
Okay, so it says,
Next chapter,
8th, right? The 8th chapter.
chapter 8, and which pasuk? I'm sorry.
I think it was the 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
18th. That's 22nd. 19th. Good sign. Good face. Okay, got it.
Right.
okay.
Have it there, Mayor?
Yes, Vayetze Noach uvanav ishto unishevanav ito. So Noach left, and his sons, his wife, and the wives of his sons with him.
Right.
Okay, then it goes on. Kol hachaya, kol haremesh, v'kol ha'of, kol romes al haaretz, lemishpachotehem yatzu min hateva. So everything that was living, every remes, says creeping thing, okay, and all the birds and all that move on the earth came out of the Teva according by their families. Okay. That's interesting. So they group by their families. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. We won't have time to go into that today, but that's an interesting point. What does it mean, their families? After all, they only went in 2 by 2, right?
Right, right.
So where these families come from, right?
That's true. Okay. Then it says, Vayiven Noach Mizbeach LaHashem, Vayikach Mikol HaBehema Torah, Mikol HaOf HaTahor, Vaya'al Olot Bamizbeach. So Noah built an altar, okay, to Hashem, and he took each of the pure animals and of the birds, pure birds, and he offered them as an offering on the altar.
Right. There you are. Mhm.
Okay, then it continues. Vayareach Hashem, no, Vayarach Hashem et reach hanichoach. So Hashem smelled a pleasing aroma. Okay, Vayomer Hashem Elibo lo osif lekalel od et haadama va'avur haadam ki yetzer lev haadam ra minu urav velo osif od lahakot et kol chai kasher asiti. Wow. Okay, so he said, to read this, I will not continue to curse again the ground because of man, since the design of man's heart is evil from youth, his youth, nor will I again continue to smite every living being as I have done. Wow.
So first of all, you see a tremendous effect of bringing these sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
These sacrifices precipitated a tremendous mercy upon the Kadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, right?
Right.
And Kadosh Baruch Hu found it so pleasing that he was, so to speak, now prepared to have a whole different type of a relationship with humanity. And not only humanity, with the whole universe.
Hmm.
So, as I mentioned earlier, when Mesilas Yesharim says that it's based on Gemuras, Chazal, that when a Talmid Chacham is eating, it's as if the Mizbeach is being brought sacrifices upon it. So that's the same idea. The same idea when a tzaddik is going to be eating with the proper kavanas, making brachas, the proper kavanas when he's eating. So it's accomplishing the same thing as a mizbeach, as the Beis Hamikdash.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
So now, just to continue on with this concept of Ava, if I'm not sure if you have a your Chumash contains Vayikra, but there's a pasuk in Vayikra which we're probably one of the most famous psukim in the Torah. Even the Goyim, the non-Jews, know about this pasuk.
Okay, go to another thing here.
That's to be in Vayikra and Parshas Kedoshim.
That's around 19. Okay.
That's going to be yeah. In Parshas Kedoshim, that's in Vayikra, Perek 19, Yud Tes, Pasuk Yud Tes. 19, verse 18.
Okay, so it says, lo tikom v'lo titor et b'nei amecha, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, ani Hashem. Okay, so you shall not take revenge.
Right, very good.
And not bear a grudge, apparently, against the members of your people. B'nei amecha. You shall love your fellow as yourself. I am Hashem. Oh, okay.
So as I said, this is probably one of the top 10 verses in the Torah that even the non-Jews seem to recognize. Although I think they forget the first part of the pasuk.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
they concentrate on the second part, La'apereka Kamocha,
Right.
but they forget about not taking revenge and not being vengeful. But I guess half is better than nothing, right, Mayor?
I guess so, yes.
So what does the Targum say over here as well?
That I don't have.
So it says here the same thing, that that Usrachem Lachavarech Kavaseh Ana Hashem. You should have mercy, compassion on your fellow, just as you do on yourself. The same concept, the same idea.
Mhm.
That love is translated into a behavior. It's not an emotion, it's a behavior of rachamim, of compassion. And now, it's just, there are more examples too, but final example I'll bring is here in Devarim, 1 second. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah. If you have a in Parshas Vayeschanan in Devarim, Perek Vav.
Okay, Perek Vav.
You know, we say this pasuk 2-3 times a day.
Let's see, paragraph.
So Parshas. Then Devarim, what, 20?
Right, Parsha by Hasanim, chapter 6, Pasuk K.
Oh, chapter 6. Pasuk. And,
Oh, yeah, that's a Shema.
Right.
Did you find it, Roy?
Shema, oh, Hero Israel,
Yes, it says, okay.
chapter Pasuk 4, is it?
Yeah, 4 is the Shema, and then 5 is the
You shall
paragraph.
love the God, yes.
Mhm.
And 6 is, all these matters command you be on your heart. Okay.
Okay, so 5 says, "V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol me'odecha." You shall love Hashem your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your. He translates it resources here.
Mm.
I guess me'odecha can be possessions too, or money.
Right, your possessions. Now, your translator went to college, so he uses his resources.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
look at the Targum. You have the Targum there, right?
Yeah,
Yisrachim. Yisrachim. You should have compassion. You have mercy on HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Okay.
So again, consistently, the Targum always translates Ava as Rachamim. And so here we have to also give a little bit more thought. How are we supposed to be compassionate and how are we supposed to be merciful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? After all, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't lack anything, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu
Right, but wouldn't we show mercy towards Hashem by fulfilling his commandments?
exactly. Mhm. Exactly. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all powerful, all knowing, completely perfect, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to fulfill his commandments. So the way we can act mercifully with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is by fulfilling the commandments he's commanded us with.
Mhm.
There's a chazal, it might be a pasuk, I've forgotten, that refers to Avram Avinu as he was mischased in koinai. He was merciful with his creator. So the question's asked, how can you do chesed? This exact question. How can you be merciful with HaKadosh Baruch Hu was completely all powerful, all perfect? So what kind of chesed is it, mercy, that you can claim to do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So that's the exact point, that Avram Avinu was self-sacrificing. He gave up his own desires to do the desires of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Mhm.
So that's the basis of all. That's the basis of all rachamim, mercy, compassion. That's the basis of all ava. When you have a relationship which is based on ava, so the people involved, they forego their own desires and wishes and needs, for the sake of somebody else, or for the sake of something else. So that's what love is all about. That's what true love is all about. True love is really, it's not some kind of an emotion, some type of a Hollywood, like, if you know, what comes out of Hollywood, violence comes out of Hollywood, right? Violence.
That's
Like
true.
that's not compassion. There's no compassion in that, right?
That's right.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of compassion, violence, destruction, right? So love is the self-sacrifice that a person goes through for the sake of somebody else. So when a person is willing to be self-sacrificing for the sake of somebody else's needs and desires, right? So that's what love, that's the whole basis of love. Without that, it's not love. It could be something else, whatever it might be lust, whatever you want to call it, infatuation, whatever you want to call it, but it's not what the Torah calls love. What the Torah calls love is when you're willing and able to be compassionate for the sake of somebody else, be merciful for the sake of somebody else. So, okay, that's something, and that was the whole, through that we see at the end the whole point of Noah being saved. He was a tzaddik, and through his tzidkus, through his righteousness, Kadosh Baruch Hu acted mercifully upon him and upon his family and saved them, and that was what led to the whole histalshus, the whole continuation of humanity. And so even though Kadosh Baruch Hu was very, very displeased with humanity, so much so that the only possible beneficial solution was destruction, but he made an exception to have special mercy and compassion upon Noah and his family and those along with him in the Teva. So that's a big lesson for us, that we're all involved with. Again, it says, we have to have compassion with other people, other Jews. We have to have compassion with them, meaning what? Compassion, not just you say, sometimes it's enough, give a person a nice smile, but sometimes you have to do and give up from your own desires and needs to be compassionate to another person. So just like we do that with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, we give up our own desires and needs for the sake of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's commands. Likewise, when it comes to any other Jew, and even more so when it comes to a husband and a wife and parents and children. So we have to love them. And love, again, is not that Hollywood emotion that they put next to their violent movies, but we know better. We know that we have to act compassionately, mercifully, even in the case where we have to forego our own desires and needs for the benefit of somebody else. So, okay, with that, and we see that with Ava, we'll just Shabbos. We say in the Nusach of Tefillah, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us Shabbos for Ava. He gave us a command of Shabbos, and it was done with Ava, with mercy, with compassion. He could have said, okay, work day in and night, 7/24, 24/7, whatever it is, and without a day of rest. No, but he compassionately, mercifully gave us a day of rest, which we can focus our minds and our activities on serving more than during the weekdays. So with that, everyone should have a very good Erev Shabbos, and I guess we'll continue Mitzvah Shem on Yom Rishon. Mitzvah Shem.
Okay,
Amen.
very good.
Good Shabbos. Thank you very much, Rabbi Furst.
Thank you, Roy, as well. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Lou.
Okay, have a good Shabbos.
All right.
Be well. See you next week.
Now, Lou, we go to Rabbi Levitt or you?
Levitt,
Levitt.
Rabbi Levitt now.
Okay. Thank
Very
you.
good.